The operating room fell silent. An 8-year-old girl's heart had stopped. The steady rhythm of the heart monitor had become one long, unbroken tone. No one moved. No one spoke. Every eye slowly turned toward the chief surgeon. After a long silence, he quietly removed his surgical gloves. Then he looked at the young doctor standing beside him. His voice was calm, but heavy. "We've done everything we can, one by one." The senior surgeons stepped away from the operating table. The room had accepted defeat, except one person. The youngest doctor in the room, Dr. Gabriel Hayes, never moved. Instead, he took one slow step forward. The chief surgeon looked at him. "Gabriel, there's nothing more we can do." Gabriel never looked away from the little girl, because 20 years earlier, someone had spoken those exact same words to him. And those words changed his life forever. What could make a young doctor stand alone when every experienced surgeon had already given up? It wasn't confidence. It wasn't pride. It wasn't because he believed he could never fail. It was because 20 years earlier, he had made a promise, not to the world, not to himself, but to someone he loved more than anything. A promise made by a frightened little boy standing outside another operating room. A promise he had carried every single day of his life. The memory never faded. Not for one day. Not for one moment. He didn't understand medicine. He didn't understand surgery. He didn't understand why everyone looked so worried. He only knew one thing. His little sister, Emma, was behind those doors, and he wanted her to come home, more than anything. Minutes passed. Then another. Every time the operating room doors moved, Gabriel jumped to his feet. Every footstep filled him with hope. Every passing second filled him with fear. He kept whispering the same words. "Please let her be okay." Then, the doctor stopped in front of Gabriel's family. He lowered his head, took a slow breath, and spoke the words that Gabriel would never forget. "We've done everything we can." The hallway became completely silent. Gabriel looked at the doctor, then at his parents. He waited for someone to smile, for someone to say, "She's going to be okay." But no one did. His mother covered her mouth. Tears filled her eyes. His father lowered his head. For the first time in his life, Gabriel saw the strongest man he knew, unable to stand. Gabriel didn't understand the medical words. He didn't understand the diagnosis. He only understood one thing. The adults had stopped believing, but he hadn't. Gabriel quietly walked. He placed one small hand against the cold glass. Then, almost in a whisper, he spoke to his little sister. "Emma, please don't give up. I'm still waiting for you." That night, before leaving the hospital, Gabriel looked back one last time. He didn't make a wish. He made a promise. "One day, I'll become the doctor who keeps trying, even when everyone else believes there's nothing left to do. No family should lose hope if I still have the strength to fight." The next morning, the sun rose. The town woke up. Life went on. But Gabriel was no longer the same little boy. The hospital was no longer just a place of hope. It had become promise. From that day forward, every notebook he owned, every drawing he made, every answer he gave when teachers asked, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" was always the same. A doctor. Some smiled. Some encouraged him, but not everyone believed. One afternoon, during class, the teacher smiled and asked, "Children, what do you want to become someday?" Hands shot into the air. A firefighter, a pilot, a teacher. Then, Gabriel stood. His voice was small, but certain. "I want to become a doctor." The classroom became quiet. Then, a boy at the back of the classroom laughed. Soon, another joined in. Before long, several children were laughing. One of them said, "Doctors come from rich families." Another added, "Your dad fixes bicycles. People like us don't become surgeons." Every word felt heavier than the last. Gabriel slowly sat down. For the first time, he wondered, maybe they were right. Maybe dreams belong to other people. Maybe he was asking for too much. That evening, Gabriel walked home more quietly than usual. He didn't talk about school. He didn't talk about becoming a doctor. He simply walked, looking down at the ground. His father noticed, but he didn't ask a single question. Instead, he smiled gently. "Come with me." Gabriel silently followed him into the bicycle workshop. The familiar smell of machine oil, fresh rubber, and polished wood filled the air. Rows of bicycles stood waiting to be repaired. Some had broken chains. Some had bent wheels. Some looked so damaged that most people would have thrown them away. His father slowly rolled one old bicycle onto the repair stand. Then he placed a wrench into Gabriel's hands. His father smiled, then quietly asked, "Gabriel, what do you see?" Gabriel looked carefully. The chain was broken. The front wheel was bent. The paint was peeling. Rust covered parts of the frame. After a long moment, he answered, "I think it's too broken." His father simply nodded. Without saying another word, he reached for his tools. Minute after minute, he loosened rusty bolts, straightened the bent wheel, replaced the broken chain, adjusted the brakes, tightened every loose screw. Gabriel watched every movement. Without realizing it, he wasn't just watching a bicycle being repaired. He was watching a lesson. Finally, Thomas lowered the bicycle onto the floor. He climbed onto the seat and rode it smoothly across the workshop. Not a single sound, not a single wobble. He stopped beside Gabriel, smiled, and asked, "Now, what do you see?" Gabriel smiled for the first time that day. "A bicycle that works." Thomas nodded, then looked directly into his son's eyes. Most people only see what's broken, so they give up before they even try. He gently rested his hand on the bicycle, then continued, "But every broken thing deserves a chance. Sometimes, all it needs is someone who refuses to quit." He carefully placed the wrench back into Gabriel's hand. Never let someone else decide what's possible for your life. If your mind refuses to give up, you can do things that other people call impossible. Those words stayed with Gabriel for the rest of his life. That night, Gabriel opened his notebook. At the top of a blank page, he slowly wrote, "One day, I will become a doctor." He closed the notebook, held it tightly against his chest, and for the first time since Emma became sick, he truly believed that impossible was only a word. Dreams are free, but chasing them is expensive. Years passed. Gabriel grew taller. His school books became heavier, and every year, his dreams seemed farther away. Science became harder. Mathematics became more difficult. Some nights, he studied until the candles burned out. Some mornings, he woke before the sun, not because someone forced him to, because every page he read brought him one step closer to the promise he made outside that hospital. Money was always tight. His father repaired bicycles from sunrise until long after sunset. His mother spent long days teaching children, then came home to prepare lessons for tomorrow. Neither of them complained, but Gabriel noticed every unpaid bill, every repaired pair of shoes, every sacrifice they tried to hide. One evening, he quietly closed his biology book and whispered to himself, maybe they're right. Maybe becoming a doctor is too expensive. The next morning, before Gabriel left for school, he found an envelope on the kitchen table. Inside was the application fee for the medical entrance exam. His father had written only one sentence: "Don't let my wallet decide your future." Gabriel stood there, unable to speak. He finally understood. His parents had been fighting for his dream just as hard as he had. That morning, Gabriel made another promise, not just to Emma, not just to himself, but to his parents. Every sacrifice you make, I will honor. And from that day forward, he never studied to become successful. He studied because too many people already believed his dream was impossible. Time never stopped. Neither did Gabriel. The little boy, who once stood outside an operating room, had become a young man. His dream hadn't changed, but now it was time to prove he deserved it. The National Medical Entrance Exam was only 1 week away. Thousands would take the test. Only a few hundred would earn a place. Years of sacrifice would be decided in a single morning. Every evening, his friends went home. Gabriel stayed. One more chapter, one more question, one more hour. Whenever exhaustion whispered, "You've done enough," he remembered a little girl behind an operating room door, and he kept going. Then, the morning finally arrived. The examination hall was filled with nervous students. Some looked confident, some looked terrified. Gabriel closed his eyes, took one deep breath, and remembered his father's words. Never let someone else decide what's possible for your life. The supervisor placed the paper on his desk. "You may begin." Gabriel looked at the first question, then the second. A small smile appeared on his face, not because the exam was easy, but because, for the first time, he wasn't afraid. He had already defeated the voice that said, "You can't." When the exam ended, Gabriel walked out, not knowing whether he had passed. But he knew something else. Win or lose, he had given everything he had. And sometimes, that's where impossible begins to disappear. The exam was over, but the real challenge had just begun. Waiting. One day passed, then another. Every morning, Gabriel checked the mailbox. Nothing. Every afternoon, he refreshed the results website. Still nothing. Days felt like weeks. Weeks felt like months. For the first time in years, there was nothing left to study, nothing left to prepare, nothing left to fix. All he could do was wait. One evening, Gabriel found his father repairing another bicycle. Without looking up, Thomas smiled and asked, "Do you remember this old workshop?" Gabriel smiled. Every corner. His father tightened one final bolt, then quietly said, "The hardest part of repairing something is not turning the wrench." He looked at Gabriel. "It's having the patience to keep turning it." That night, Gabriel realized something. Success isn't only about working hard. It's also about refusing to quit before it rewards your perseverance. Then, one bright morning, a white envelope appeared inside the mailbox. Gabriel froze. His hands began to shake. On the front were the words, "School of Medicine." He slowly reached for it. Gabriel closed his eyes, took one deep breath, and slowly opened the envelope. Inside that envelope was the answer to a promise made 8 years earlier. Gabriel's hands wouldn't stop shaking. Slowly, he unfolded the letter. His eyes searched for one sentence, one answer, one word. Then he found it. Congratulations. For a moment, he couldn't breathe. He read it again, then again, just to make sure. He wasn't dreaming. He had been accepted. Not because life had been easy, not because he was lucky, but because he never stopped believing. Without thinking, Gabriel ran. Past the mailbox, past the garden, straight to the bicycle workshop. His father looked up, confused. Gabriel couldn't speak. He simply handed him the letter. Thomas adjusted his glasses, read the first line, then smiled. The kind of smile that only a father understands. Thomas looked at his son, his eyes filled with tears. Then he wrapped Gabriel in the biggest hug he had ever given him. Quietly, "I always knew. You were never repairing a dream. You were building one." That evening, Gabriel walked back to the same hospital where his dream had begun. He stood quietly, looking at the entrance, not as the frightened little boy who once waited outside, but as a future doctor, ready to walk in. Getting accepted into medical school didn't make Gabriel a doctor, simply gave him the chance to become one. The white coat would have to be earned. One lecture, one exam, one patient, one mistake at a time. Medical school wasn't like anything he had ever imagined. Every day, he discovered how much he still didn't know. The first week felt impossible. Books thicker than he had ever seen. Words he couldn't pronounce. Lessons that seemed impossible to remember. Some classmates understood everything immediately. Gabriel didn't. He stayed behind long after every lecture ended. Reading, studying, trying again. One afternoon, after a difficult anatomy exam, Gabriel looked at his score. It wasn't enough. For a moment, the old voice returned. Maybe those kids were right. Maybe people like me don't become doctors. Then he remembered something. Not the score. Not the fear. His father's voice. Broken doesn't mean finished. Gabriel folded the paper, placed it inside his notebook, and quietly smiled. Tomorrow, he would begin again. Years later, the young man who once struggled to pass anatomy would face a decision that no textbook could ever teach. The years passed, lecture by lecture, exam by exam. Night after sleepless night, Gabriel kept moving forward. The boy, who once watched doctors through hospital windows, had finally become Dr. Gabriel Hayes. But becoming a doctor was only the beginning, because textbooks can't prepare you for a beating heart. Every patient had a family waiting outside. Every decision carried someone's future. Every heartbeat was a reminder that medicine wasn't about perfection. It was about responsibility. Gabriel never forgot what it felt like to stand on the other side, praying for a miracle. Then, one rainy evening, an emergency call echoed through the hospital. A child, 8 years old, severe heart failure. The operating room was being prepared. Gabriel's heart skipped a beat. Not because he was afraid, because he remembered. As Gabriel scrubbed his hands, a memory returned. A hospital corridor, a frightened little boy, a little girl named Emma, a promise made 20 years ago. Tonight, that promise would finally be tested. The operating room fell silent. Every monitor began to scream. An 8-year-old girl's heart had stopped. The entire surgical team froze. The chief surgeon looked at the monitor, then at the tiny patient. Slowly, he removed his gloves. His voice was calm, but heavy. "There's nothing more we can do." The room became silent. No one moved. No one spoke. The chief surgeon turned toward the team. Quietly, he whispered, "Time of death." Before he could finish, a calm voice interrupted him. "Wait." Every eye turned toward Gabriel. In that instant, 20 years disappeared. He wasn't looking at an operating room. He was looking at another hospital, another little girl, another doctor, another sentence. "There's nothing more we can do." Then he remembered his sister, his promise. "No patient will ever hear impossible from me." Gabriel stepped forward. His voice never shook. He looked at the chief surgeon, then quietly said, "With your permission, I'd like to try one more time." The room held its breath. The chief surgeon looked into Gabriel's eyes. For one long moment, neither man spoke. Then he slowly nodded. "You have one chance." The room came alive again. Every nurse returned to position. Every surgeon moved back to the table. The clock started once more. Gabriel closed his eyes, just once. Not to pray, but to remember. A frightened little boy, a hospital hallway, a promise that had carried him across 20 years. He opened his eyes. There was no fear left, only purpose. Minutes passed. Every heartbeat mattered. Every decision mattered. The room remained silent, except for instructions. Steady hands. Measured movements. No one spoke, unless it could save a life. Then, a nurse looked up. Her voice trembled. "Doctor." A tiny signal appeared on the monitor. One heartbeat, then another. The flat line began to move. The monitor started singing again. The room remained silent. No one celebrated. Not yet. Because everyone knew the fight wasn't over. Gabriel never looked away, not for a second. Because he knew one heartbeat could become a lifetime. Minutes later, the surgery was over. The operating room doors slowly opened. Everyone looked toward Gabriel. No one spoke. He quietly removed his mask, took one deep breath, and walked toward the waiting family. A little girl's mother could barely breathe. Her father held her hand tightly. Gabriel smiled. A small smile, but it said everything. She's going to be okay. For a moment, no one moved. Then tears filled the hallway. Gabriel looked back at the operating room, and suddenly, he wasn't 28 years old anymore. For just a second, he was 8. Standing outside another door, praying for one more chance. He smiled softly, not because he had won, but because he had kept his promise. Some people believe dreams come true because they're lucky, but that's not what happened here. A mechanic's son became a doctor, not because life was easy, but because he refused to believe impossible. Years ago, a little boy stood outside these hospital doors, helpless, scared, unable to save the person he loved. People told him some dreams were impossible, that boys like him didn't become doctors, that some doors were never meant to open. They were wrong. Because dreams don't ask where you were born. They don't ask how much money your family has. They ask only one question: will you keep going? Gabriel did. One promise, one decision, became thousands of hours. Thousands of hours became one saved life. And one saved life proved something the world often forgets. You can do anything if you refuse to give up on the person you want to become. Maybe, right now, you're standing outside your own impossible door. Maybe people have already decided what you can and cannot become. Don't let them write the ending of your story, because the distance between impossible and possible is often just one person who refuses to quit. That person can be you. Your past does not decide your future. Your circumstances do not define your limits. If you keep learning, keep believing, and keep moving forward, even when others say it's impossible, you can do anything. Gabriel's story is over, but yours is still being written. Maybe your dream isn't becoming a doctor. Maybe it's becoming an artist, a teacher, an athlete, an entrepreneur, or simply someone who refuses to give up. Whatever your dream is, remember this: every expert was once a beginner. Every success story started with someone who looked impossible in the face and took one more step. So when life tells you you can't, smile. Take one more step and prove it wrong, because you can do anything.